Welcome to the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Professional basketball has been here in San Antonio since the old ABA days, 1973, with the Iceman, George Gervin. They've advanced to the Western Conference Finals just once in '95, but this might be the best San Antonio basketball team to come down the pike. A team that has now won 14 straight here at the Alamo Dome. Winners of 31 of the last 36 regular season games, and the best record in the regular season. James Worthy. Last night, everyone was watching Sacramento defeat Utah in Game 2. I know Minnesota was enlightened by that victory last night for the underdogs.
Psychological warfares lead to adjustments, and that's exactly what Flip Saunders has to do tonight. Already we know Dean Garrett will start on Tim Duncan. That allows Mitchell to come off the bench and possibly expose Avery. And also Joe Smith at the 3 spot can also take advantage of Elliott. So he's also going to have to up the tempo against the Spurs tonight.
Well, with Minnesota trailing 1-0, they've got to get some scoring from their shooting guard position. Anthony Peeler in Game 1 had just 7 points.
Yeah, Anthony Peeler is a guy that must come on strong. 16 points he averaged in the playoffs last year. Last night, only 7. So you got to find a way to get Peeler off tonight.
San Antonio has been in the playoffs 9 of the last 10 years. Their 1-year absence was the year that David Robinson was hurt. Here in San Antonio, Greg Popovich calls Robinson the X factor.
He is that because he does not have to carry the load anymore. Therefore, he can go out and do some other things. Play defense, use his savvy and experience. But Tim Duncan is the top dog. 26 points last night. He has emerged as the new kid on the block, the Rock here in San Antonio.
You know, James, 1976 was a great year. Why? Because Tim Duncan was born in '76, and then Kevin Garnett came along about a month later that year. Norma Wick joins us on the broadcast with more.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, we're seeing the contrasting styles of these two young stars. Tim Duncan, the Rock, solid to the core. Kevin Garnett, the human volcano, often erupting in emotion. Now, some say he was too emotional in Game 1 and burned himself out. I asked Kevin today, can you pace yourself tonight? And he said, not a chance. He said, I can't hold anything in reserve. So it will be up to Flip Saunders to make sure that he gets a rest when he needs it. Kevin?
Norma Wick, thank you very much. It's time to get it on. Game 2, San Antonio. The Minnesota Timberwolves from the Alamo Dome, and we'll have it.
We'll have highlights of that as the night goes on. Later on tonight on TBS, you got the Bucks and the Pacers, and here on TNT, once again, the Wolves and Spurs and the Rockets and the Lakers.
The San Antonio Spurs, the hottest team in professional basketball in the last half of this truncated season, winning 31 of the last 36, 37 victories on the year, taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves, a 25-25 group. Let's take a look at the lineups. Terrell Brandon for Minnesota at point. Anthony Peeler at the shooting guard. It'll be Dean Garrett up front with Kevin Garnett and Joe Smith for San Antonio. Avery Johnson, Mario Elie, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Sean Elliott. The coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Flip Saunders, now in his 4th season as the Wolves coach. Class of '77 out of Minnesota, where he teamed with Kevin McHale, the general manager of the Minnesota Timberwolves. As for the San Antonio Spurs, the general manager and coach is Greg Popovich, Air Force Academy, 1970. The officials tonight will be Bennett Salvatore, Teddy Bernhardt, and Ken Maurer. Game 1 went to the San Antonio Spurs. David Robinson with 12 points and 8 rebounds in that game. 99-86 the final. And James, Minnesota played with San Antonio for the first half. The Timberwolves scored 49 points in the first half. They were down 1 at half. Then the third quarter went bad.
They played extremely well in the first half, and then foul trouble plagued Smith and also Brandon and also Garnett got in foul trouble. And in the second half, the Spurs went on a 13-2 run, and that was pretty much history for the Wolves last night.
Kevin Garnett thumping his chest. David Robinson emotionless right now with the tip in the backcourt, won by the San Antonio Spurs. Avery Johnson in the matchup with Terrell Brandon early, and again they go left side as they did in the first game to go to Tim Duncan. He loves to start the offense on the left side of the lane. They double him. Running baseline, Avery Johnson. Ellie to the open man, it's Sean Elliott. Rimming, rebound, Dean Garrett in his 3rd year.
Dean Garrett starting on Tim Duncan, wants to bring the size. Also, Elliott guarding Garrett, wants to create a mismatch at that position.
Garrett is 6'11". Here's Brandon off the Garnett screen. This one rimming off, rebound, the big ticket. In the lane, the follow-away 5-footer, rimming off. Crashing the glass is Garrett. Coming over the top of Elliott, deflecting it out of bounds. And it will be San Antonio basketball.
And one thing that the Spurs want to continue to do is go down and feed their big horse, Tim Duncan, and make the defense react from there. They want to kick the ball out, penetrate, and get the perimeter shot.
On the ISO, A.J. takes Brandon to the rack, and the little left-hander out of Southern University in New Orleans opens it up 2-0 San Antonio.
Well, they want him to shoot the ball, but when he's shooting at such a high percentage, he's very effective.
Peeler strokes a 3, James. You called it. Peeler's got to get on the loose. He averaged 16 a ball game in the 5-game series last year in the playoffs against Seattle.
Well, he's the X factor for the Wolves, a guy who you just mentioned played so well last year in the playoffs. Very explosive, can shoot the ball and create his own shot off the dribble.
Robinson with 10 on the shot clock from 16. It is short, and it's because Smith got him for the foul.
Joe Smith in foul trouble the last game. Only 9 points for him. Not really productive in the ball game. A big body that really needs to be in the ball game if for only defense and offensive rebounds.
They still call him Mr. around here. David Robinson, the Admiral. Boy, did he light everybody up here in '87 when he was the first pick, and they couldn't wait. It was a 2-year waiting period. Remember, because of his Naval Academy and his naval commitments. Then in '89 he exploded on the scene here in San Antonio. This is and always has been a great market for professional basketball, dating back to the ABA days in '73 when the Dallas Chaparrals moved here.
And I can remember when David Robinson came in the league, all the excitement of the Admiral coming down to San Antonio, and I'll tell you what, he went to work immediately in the league.
Robinson's 2 free throws make it San Antonio 4-3 just underway. Beyond the three-point ring, it is Sean Elliott up in the chest of Dean Garrett, and I don't really know why, James. He's beyond the three-point ring. He's not a factor out there with the rock.
Well, Elliott is so used to perimeter pressure on the guards, he forgot that Garrett's almost 7 feet out there. You don't need to pressure him at all.
Garnett will step out to screen, then will pop to get the ball. Feed to Peeler, slashing in right to left. The running lefty off the mark. Rebound deflected. Joe Smith's got a chance. Tight ropes the sideline. Through inbounds, but Duncan can't handle. Out of bounds. It'll be Minnesota ball with 22 on the shot clock.
And that's one of the mismatches that the coach is talking about. But here's the save. Joe Smith hustling, throwing it right back to Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan unable to handle it.
Brandon very patient at the point, working the left side. Now to Garnett, faces up on Duncan, takes that soft 15-footer rimming off. David deflects the ball into the air. Sean Elliott rips it. Here comes Avery trying to bust out of backcourt. The ball deflected, apparently dribbled out of bounds by A.J. Turnover on the Spurs. Minnesota will take it.
Garnett surprised him. It was a long rebound. Avery off and running. Garnett just happened to be in the area, taking up that room on the baseline. Johnson stepped out of bounds.
4-3 count. Spurs on top. Peeler will handle up top and hand off to Joe Smith. They have got to get Joe Smith in an offensive rhythm tonight if they expect to win game 2. Left side to Garnett. 9 on the shot clock. Brandon running into the lane. Oh, he steps right by Robinson with a right-hand backhander.
And one of the mismatches that Flip Saunders wanted to create may not be productive in points, but Joe Smith is pulling David Robinson outside. That allowed that layup to come right down the paint uncontested.
Brandon with pressure on the basketball, and now the Spurs with 12 on the shot clock get into their offense. Let's see if they bring the double team immediately on Duncan. They don't. It's a soft double team, and they pay for it. Avery had a shot at a runner, but blocked by Joe Smith. Off the glass, here comes Minnesota running. Peeler right side to Brandon. Pulls up, try to get Elliott on the pump fake, can't. The skip pass, cross court. Here's Peeler for the baseline jumper and air ball. He hurried his shot. Duncan with a rebound.
Yeah, Peeler trying to be a little bit too aggressive. You don't need to force the issue. Just let the game come to you. It'll come naturally.
Wolves lead by 1. They double low. A.J. set up for the jumper, missing. In game 1, he was outstanding with the stroke. Avery Johnson hit 8 of 15, James.
And Flip Saunders wants able to take the shot because he does not want Duncan and Robinson to get going.
Ball deflected on the window. Smith with a recovery. Lost the handle. And Mariuelli heads the other way. Centers to Duncan. Wolves recovered well that time.
They did. The transition on defense was excellent, not allowing the Spurs to get into the threat area.
You got a call window. Tim Duncan with the lost art. The bank shot from a wicked angle, 15 feet out.
Talk about fundamentally sound. That shot is a lost art in the NBA.
Yep.
Kissing it off the glass, particularly a big 7-footer from 15 feet.
Spurs on top, 6-5. 8 minutes left here in the first quarter. In the corner, it is Smith. Shot off by Elliott. Garrett with a nice pass. Interior. Left side to Garnett. The follow-away jumper good for Kevin.
Kevin Garnett letting his emotions be known in game 1. Coming out with a nice soft 5-foot jumper from the baseline.
Wolves are getting some shots now, James. 3 for 10 here in the early going. And the San Antonio Spurs 2 for 5. And there comes Tim Duncan. Baseline left with a two-hand jam.
Tim Duncan taking Garrett to the hole. Little baseline spin move. Footwork is phenomenal. He can go either way.
Smith with a jumper short. Duncan seals off Garnett for the rebound. Advances it to midcourt, and Avery will take it. Robinson on the ISO. Fakes baseline. Sets up for the air ball. And Brandon with it. Look at the pass through traffic. Smith can't finish over Duncan. Robinson there to clean it up. Ellie cut off beautifully by Garrett. Saves to Elliott. And then outside to Johnson. And in a conversation with Popovich with 11 on the shot clock.
The Wolves doing a good job of getting back on the defensive transition. As we see a hard foul, and it's going to be Spurs ball out of bounds.
6:47 left in the first quarter of play. When we come back, Avery Johnson shooting free throws. The Spurs lead the Timberwolves 8-7 from the Alamo Dome.
One of the things that the Spurs want to do is post up David Robinson and see what the defense is going to do. Is it going to come from here or from this guy, from the baseline? Nothing happens. He spins and takes the baseline route. That's just good poise and execution, recognition by David Robinson, waiting for the double team that never came.
Big game. You're an absolute artist with that telestrator, I got to tell you.
Good at drawing circles.
Tim Duncan with 8 points, 4 for 4 shooting. David Robinson, 2 of 4 with 6. 14 of the 20 points scored by the two big men, Duncan and Robinson. The only thing we've seen ever in basketball similar to this is the Twin Towers of Houston in the 80s. Ralph Sampson, Akeem Olajuwon.
And I remember with those two guys when they ignited the whole Houston Rocket Ball Club with the Twin Towers. They beat us in 1986 to go on to the finals after losing to the Boston Celtics. But those two guys were just as versatile, created a lot of mismatches. But I have to give the edge here to Duncan and Robinson. Hakeem Olajuwon was a great defender, though, but I still have to give the edge to these two guys who have just taken this ball club on their shoulders.
Joe Smith in game 1, 7 points, 5 rebounds, and they absolutely have to get point production from Smith tonight in order to beat San Antonio here in game 2.
Well, they need him on the floor. He was in foul trouble a lot last night. They need him not only to score, but get some offensive rebounds and provide some good defense.
Smith with a couple of free throws, also has 5 rebounds here in the first quarter. San Antonio setting up. Malik Rose sets a screen high. Johnson with 10 on the shot clock. Being watched by James Robinson. He had a foul to give under the 2-minute mark. 9 and 5/10 seconds left here in the first quarter. So San Antonio will have it sideline out with Kersey, Duncan, Malik Rose, Avery Johnson, and Mario Ellie sneaking off into the corner, where more than likely he's going to try to get off the 3 here to close the quarter. Kevin Garnett will step out. In will come Dean Garrett. All right, let's watch Ellie. He stands still. Johnson going to dribble in that direction. Spin, hesitate, and call his own number, and he's fouled by Robinson with 2 and 4/10 seconds left. You didn't want that play to occur, but Avery's 0 for 2 and is a 57% free throw shooter.
Well, I'm sure they didn't want to foul, but if they fouled the right guy, don't want to foul with 2 seconds left on the clock. Robinson's playing a little bit too tight. He wanted to put a hand up, but he did not want to smack him on the wrist as he did.
As you say, they'd rather see Avery up there shooting free throws. Hey, Mario with a wide open 3.
And now they get a chance to go with 2.4 seconds left. If he misses, you get a chance to go down and possibly score.
Avery's second free throw up. That one rims around and falls. In backcourt, James Robinson will try to split a double team. Stolen by Ellie. A 3 at the buzzer nearly went in. Oh, my. So the quarter comes to an end here in San Antonio. The Spurs on top of the T-Wolves, 21-19. Tim Duncan leads the Spurs with 8 points. the Alamodome in San Antonio, Texas, with big game James Worthy, Kevin Calabro, the NBA on TNT. First quarter in the books here at the Alamodome. Spurs lead the T-Wolves 21-19. Tim Duncan leading the way for the Spurs with 4-4 shooting and 8 points. 3 of those buckets, James, in transition.
Yeah, he really runs the floor very well. Kind of like David Robinson used to do when he was younger. Just very difficult to defend Tim Duncan when he's doing everything, particularly running the floor.
Spurs, for the second consecutive year, hold opponents to just under 41% shooting from the field for the year. They held Minnesota to 32% shooting on 8 of 25 in the first period. We're joined tonight by Norma Wick working the sidelines.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, Flip spent that last time out telling his troops not to be disheartened. He said, we're only down by 2, and we've had some major miscues. So they came out of it feeling not too badly. Tim Duncan a little worse for wear. They spent the last 2 timeouts trying to get blood out of his uniform. They finally had to change his shirt. Apparently, it's just a scrape on his elbow, and he's okay. Kevin?
Thank you, Norma. Antonio Daniels will step into the lineup. Second-year player out of Bowling Green in Ohio. 4th pick of the Vancouver Grizzlies a year ago. Garnett with a fall-away jumper won't go. Kevin Garnett now 2 for 7. But he's been assertive. He wasn't in the second half of game 1. Ball deflected, grabbed by Garnett. Brandon lead pass to Mitchell. Broken up beautifully by Jerome Kersey. Never quit on that play, James.
Well, Jerome Kersey, the 14 years he's been in the league, he's played every play of every game. The type of guy you want on your team, the effort guy, utility man.
20 on the shot clock, just underway here in the second quarter. Mitchell with a wicked up fake, and he sold that one, didn't he? He got Jaren Jackson into the air and onto the body, and Sam Mitchell will shoot 2. Mitch was such a key factor in the 5-game series, which Minnesota stunned the Supersonics last year. Seattle winning in the 5th game, but Mitchell gave him the great toughness coming off the bench. In fact, Greg Popovich told us today at the shoot-around he feels like Sam Mitchell is the fiber of the ball club. And I love his comment about, he says, every time Mitchell races for a jumper, I just assume it's going in. The guy's deadly.
Well, Mitchell is such a great asset off the bench, kind of like Jalen Rose is for Larry Bird. He comes off, not really a guy you talk a lot about in your scouting report because he's not dominant, but at the end of the game, you look at the numbers, he's done something well. An offensive rebound here, a loose ball, a big shot. He comes in and defends people, does it all.
Mitchell missing the second half of 2, and the Spurs with the recovery. A minute gone by here in the second quarter. Duncan from the top finds the open man. Rose swivels to the hole and packs it down with 2 hands. Spurs lead 23-20.
Tim Duncan draws so much attention that he does so many things well. He scores on you. That time, the great trigger man making the assist to Rose from the top of the key.
Rose then trying to bother Garnett, called with a foul. The previous play.
Here's Tim Duncan at the top of the key, just a little touch pass. Everyone's watching Tim Duncan. Meanwhile, Rose getting behind the defense. Very effective. Tim Duncan, high-low pass.
Malik Rose out at Drexel in Philadelphia. Points in the paint, San Antonio 18, Minnesota 2. And it is remarkable that Minnesota is down just by 3, considering they shot 35% in the first quarter. 19 turnovers in game 1 and another one here, but Duncan can't finish, missing the jam. Hey, he is human.
He tried to bring the house down that time. That time the house was already well built.
Sealy misses the jumper, but scrambles out after his rebound. Brandon will sling it to Mitch. Dean Garrett wants it on the block. He won't get it. The big ticket will. Garnett at the angle. 14 on the shot clock. Step back jumper, no. The jump pass to Mitchell. Strolls into the 3 but rimmed it. Daniels to the releasing Kersey. Duncan with the follow. Stepped out of bounds with it. So the Spurs fail to convert on 2 transition attempts that look to be wide open. 23-20 to count. The Spurs lead the Timberwolves. 9:55 left here in the Alamodome in the first half. San Antonio leading Minnesota 23-20. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the All-American basketball player from Cuyahoga Heights High School in Cleveland, Ohio's Class A high school basketball player of the year, Phil Flip Saunders.
Every now and then, these coaches, they try to be so cool and calm.
Yeah.
But when you see him on the sideline, you see him sweating.
good young coach, and I'll tell you what, he earned his stripes. 2 CBA Coach of the Year honors at 89 and 92. Heck, he spent 5 seasons in La Crosse, Wisconsin with the Catbirds.
Got some experience on his belt, that's for sure.
Minnesota, a 29% shooting team right now, but only trailing by 3. Garnett again rimming one off. Kevin has not been bashful. He's 2 for 8.
And we noticed the points in the paint. Minnesota only has 2, and as long as they continue to shoot those perimeter shots, it's going to be a long night.
Duncan double, throws from the post to Jackson, driving in, spun around in midair, lost the handle. Garnett spots Brandon releasing. Great crossover. Crossover right to left, and Daniels had better be examined at halftime for broken ankles.
Boy, I think he lost his shoestrings on that one because Terrell Brandon set him up just like he was setting an alarm clock. Automatic.
23-22. Spurs by 1. Duncan goes middle. Draws a crowd. Jaren Jackson's open. Badly missed 3. And the Wolves will take it as it goes out of bounds.
Well, Jackson came in the other night with a little three-pointer that really ignited and gave the Spurs a big lead. He's this guy. Loves to keep the bench involved. A lot of camaraderie over there with Jaren Jackson.
Tim Duncan, 4 of 5, 8 points. 3 of them in transition. That, I think, is heartening for Minnesota because he's not hurt you yet in the half-court sets.
Yeah, you can't stop him because when he's not getting the job done on the half-court, he's hustling and getting all the intangibles. There's a guy I hate to see him. I still hate to see him. I think I still owe him a few elbows as well, but one of the greatest post-up players in the league, unstoppable. Kevin McHale had some big battles against young fella.
Will Perdue will step into the lineup. The 7-footer out of Vanderbilt has 3 championship rings in his days with the Chicago Bulls. Brandon for the baseline jumper. On the weak side, the rebound collected by Sean Elliott. Elliott's been quiet, just 0 for 2. 23-22 Spurs, 8:23 to go here in the second quarter of play.
Look at McHale. He's thinking about 1984. 1986 championship. He's brainwashed the VP.
Tough year for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Quite obviously, Terry Porter got away through free agent ranks. At the beginning of the year, Tom Gugliotta goes without any compensation, and then Stephon Marbury forces a trade in March because he can't play with Kevin Garnett. Apparently, that was the inside word. He didn't want to share the billing with Kevin Garnett. And so the Wolves, I think, were lucky to get Terrell Brandon, and they got New Jersey's first-round pick this year, which will be no worse than 5th overall in the draft. Here's Mitchell driving in, outside of Terrell, slashing in, stopping, and a whistle. 23-22 count here. San Antonio leading the Wolves. The Bucks and the Pacers at 9:30 on TBS. Rockets, Lakers 10:30, and inside the NBA on TNT. Following that game, Houston and the Lakers at 10:30.
It's going to be 2 good series there. The Bucks played Indiana well in the regular season. It's playoff time now. They should come back strong, and the Houston Rockets will give the Lakers a battle in Game 2.
The winner of this series will take on the Houston Lakers winner. Here's Mitchell firing a long one from the baseline. Sam Mitchell putting the San Antonio Spurs in a deficit situation. 24-23. Minnesota leading San Antonio, and the Spurs having difficulty getting their offense set. We'll return to the Alamo Dome with more first half action on TNT in a moment. Minnesota has taken the lead over San Antonio, and that can't be sitting well with Greg Popovich. Norma Wick is down there to cover that huddle.
Thanks, Kevin. Yes, Greg Popovich popped off. He is very, very angry with them right now. He said, look, you guys, if you're going to guard somebody, guard them. If you're going to rebound, get after it. He says you've got your heads in the sand right now, something close to that anyways. And he said if you're going to hit somebody, hit them hard. But he's extremely angry with them right now, and he wants them to get their act together.
And coming out of the timeout, Elliott elects for a step-back jump shot from long range. That, I'm not sure, is what they had envisioned. Timberwolves with a rebound. Despite being out-rebounded by 2, Minnesota has 9 more shots now than San Antonio. Minnesota shooting 31%, yet they hold the lead with 7 minutes remaining.
Very strange game. That means that San Antonio is not as effective as they were in Game 1 as far as getting some good looks at the basket.
2 opportunities for Minnesota's Garnett and Garrett, and then finally Garrett hauls it down and swings it outside. Brandon will set up in the half court. Garnett skipping with a dribble on an open lane. Throws outside to Garrett. And you don't want him shooting from out there for obvious reasons.
Well, if he wants some attempts, yeah, but not to score.
Antonio Daniels with the ball at the point outside the three-point ring. San Antonio hasn't scored in the last 4 minutes. Not a point. Purdue will clear out for Elliott. Sean trying to take Mitchell, and a foul called as Elliott goes up. Popovich is fiery out of the Air Force Academy in 70. He wanted to be told us this afternoon, he wanted to be a spy. He wanted to be a James Bond type character.
Double O Pop was what his name going to be. Yeah, I remember those intense looks when things aren't going well.
Paul Pressey is assistant. And, of course, Greg Popovich worked for both Don Nelson and Larry Brown. He learned from two of the best.
Yes, he did. Right now, his team's a little stagnant right now, standing around, and it's very easy to defend when you pop Elliott out for ISO. You don't have Duncan in the game, and you're not going inside to Robinson. The Timberwolves have been able to defend the perimeter game.
Spurs are tight. I think that would be an understatement. They're 3 for 7 shooting from the free throw line. Elliott missing the first. The second is good. San Antonio, keep in mind, has won 14 in a row here at home. They only lost 4 games all year at home, and those were early in the year against quality basketball teams, playoff teams.
I want to tell you, it gets a lot of anxiety comes about in the playoffs. Game 2, you got to win, or else you give up home court advantage as Garnett finally connects from the top of the key.
Garnett with 8 points, 26-24. Minnesota by a deuce. 5:58 left in the first half. Robinson wipes out Brandon. Johnson gives it back to Robinson. Dives into Elliott for the 3. Nope. Robinson can't control the rebound. Brandon after it on the floor. Garrett is there on one knee to rip it. But then Purdue ties him up. There's Will Purdue with that plexiglass face mask. Looks like a windshield out of a Yugo on his face.
Well, there's some championship spirit right there, because when the ball goes on the floor, you got to get down. You can't reach. Will Purdue, as you mentioned, Kevin, a champion with the Chicago Bulls, knows how to get down there and get real dirty with it.
Purdue's broken his nose twice this year. And no, Dikembe didn't nick him. Brandon on the tip wins it to Garnett. And Kevin throws it away, but they're going to rule it was deflected by San Antonio. It will be Minnesota ball with 19 on the shot clock. Anthony Peeler back in the lineup with Terrell Brandon, Sam Mitchell, Dean Garrett, and of course Kevin Garnett. And that was a quick stint for Purdue, who is out. Duncan and Robinson are in with Jackson, Elliott, and Johnson.
I'd say that the Spurs are playing right into Flip Saunders' hand, because it's very, very sloppy for the Spurs on the offensive end as Garnett finally gets some deep position. Unstoppable jump hook over Tim Duncan.
Gorgeous sweeping hook for KG. 4 of 10 shooting. 5:18 to play in the first half, and the Wolves have a 4-point lead. Trying to slash in Elliott. Will give it off to Duncan. They immediately double him with Brandon, and his pass out of the post deflected out of bounds. San Antonio will have it with 8 on the shot clock.
Well, the Wolves are doing very well. They're coming on Duncan right away. As you can see, the matchup on the other end, Garnett and Duncan. This time, Garnett gets pretty low position. 1, 2 dribbles, a little fake to the baseline. Unstoppable.
8 on the shot clock. Duncan will take it 15 feet from the hole. Look at this drive. Couldn't finish. Kevin Garnett was up top for the block and the foul. Now, this is the key factor here on Garnett, just his first foul.
Yeah, and you know, in game 1, got in foul trouble in the third quarter. It really cost the Timberwolves in the second half. He and Brandon on the bench with fouls along with Joe Smith. So very important for Garnett in particular to stay out of foul trouble early in the game.
Well, they changed apparently the call. They're going to give it to Anthony Peeler. So even better news for Minnesota. The foul will not go to Kevin Garnett. Duncan missing his first, the second up, short-armed it. And San Antonio 4 for 9, 4 for 10. On their own floor from the free throw line.
And if you don't think that Utah loss is setting in their minds, they saw that game and they're thinking about that fear of losing.
Nice pass. Brandon down low. Dean Garrett and 1. Went up strong with 2 hands and is fouled by the Admiral. And Brandon with a sensational find beneath the rim.
Well, it's taken the first quarter to really get the sweat and the lather going, as you see Terrell Brandon in the triple threat position, going all the way under the basket, never discontinuing the dribble, finding Garrett underneath for the monster jam.
Dean Garrett strokes in the free throw. Brandon, in his short stint of 21 games thus far with Minnesota, averages nearly 10 assists, but just 1.8 turnover per ball game in roughly 35 minutes of contest. Excellent floor general. 31-24, Minnesota by 7. Duncan. Drop, step, spin, baseline. Again, they bring the double team on the left side quickly and force Duncan into the turnover. The 8th on San Antonio here in the first half.
And unlike game one, he is not trying to find the outside open guy. He's trying to take it into his own hands, playing right into the Wolves' defensive scheme.
Wolves by 7. Brandon isolated on Johnson, goes up top. That jumper horseshoes out into the hands of Peeler for the putback, wouldn't go. Garrett with the find outside to Garnett. Minnesota playing smarter basketball than they did in the first 5 minutes. When they get that offensive rebound, James, they're kicking it outside for the reset.
They have learned that possession is everything. Don't waste it.
Mitchell for the 3, and Peeler soars in for the offensive rebound. There's the impact of Peeler, who not only led in scoring last year in the 5-game series in the playoffs, but averaged 8 rebounds a game against the Sonics last year.
Very effective going to the boards, particularly picking up the long rebounds. Anthony Peeler will be key in this series, particularly in this game. Anthony Peeler going to the offensive board. Mario Elie not boxing out, and there's nothing more demoralizing than playing good defense and then giving up an extra possession. Here's another one. Anthony Peeler again.
Kevin Garnett strikes inside of the key from 16 feet out. The big ticket with 10 points on 5 for 11. And a 13-1 run right now. Progress by Minnesota. Garnett has scored the last 9 points on the run. Elie, a runner, won't go. San Antonio has scored just 3 points in the quarter in 8 minutes of work. And a foul called on Tim Duncan in pursuit of a loose ball will give it back to Minnesota. And San Antonio over the limit.
And take a look at the offensive rebounds. For Minnesota, Anthony Peeler has 2 of those that we just saw. San Antonio, bigger team, needs to get on the glass, particularly on the offensive board.
We mentioned at the top of the program that that win by Sacramento over Utah was not lost on Flip Saunders and the Minnesota Timberwolves. They talked about it today at practice to us. They want to scramble the game. They want to make this an ugly, slug them out affair if they can. Get San Antonio out of the rhythm. They've done just that.
Because you saw the Utah game, Utah likes to set up and set that pick and roll. Utah likes to, the Spurs like to set up with Duncan and Robinson, and they have not been able to get into that half-court set yet.
Garnett splits a pair of free throws. He has now scored the last 10 points for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Spurs held to just 3 points. Robinson nearly gave it away. Spins into the lane with 8 on the shot clock. Under duress, double teamed and fouled.
Timberwolves doing an excellent job of helping out on Duncan. As you can see, Robinson getting fouled there, but prior to that, they did an excellent job of rotating off of Duncan, not allowing him to take the shot.
Avery Johnson's got to get the Spurs in their set, and he does, throwing to the top to Duncan and then to Elliott on the backdoor lob for the lay-in.
Well, the Wolves want to front the post, and when they do that, Tim Duncan is such a great passer from the top of the key over the top to Elliott.
Minnesota by 8. That ends a dry spell of nearly 5 minutes of non-scoring. And then Garrett throws it away to Duncan. Elie 2-on-2 to the glass with the left hand. Garnett is at the top to erase the shot, but Elliott with a recovery. Garnett steps up and rejects Duncan again. Garnett with a rebuke, and Brandon on the break has it deflected, and he'll get it back. In low to Garnett, back to Brandon, juggle the ball. Double team. Veers outside, he's got a beat on a jumper that rolls off. Duncan with a rebound.
And the Spurs wanted at least one goaltending on Garnett. I don't know about the second one, but Garnett really doing the job, closing down the paint. 2 great blocks.
2 minutes left here in the half. Avery draws the double, dumps it to Duncan, over to Elliott, and out of bounds, deflected by Mitchell.
Kevin Garnett, the house of pain, as you see. Duncan with the steal, Elie going to the hole, but Garnett's going to come and possible goaltend there. But then Duncan, Garnett once again, and Popovich upset. He had a good angle at it, calling for the goaltending. Very upset.
Spurs call a 20-second timeout. They want to get their act together here in the last 2 minutes of play. Minnesota has managed to disrupt the San Antonio Spurs, who had 21 first quarter points. They have scored just 5 points here in the second frame. Well, stay tuned for the AT&T halftime report. Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, and Peter Vesey bring you up to date on the playoffs and give you a preview of the Lakers and Rockets in Game 2. And they'll also break down this first half of play between Minnesota and San Antonio. I can't say enough, just having experienced last year the first round playoff matchup between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Seattle Supersonics, what Flip Saunders and his group have managed to do in the playoffs. They lost at San Antonio. I can't say enough, just having experienced last year the first round playoff matchup between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Seattle Supersonics, what Flip Saunders and his group have managed to do in the playoffs. They lost in Game 1 to Seattle last year, James, by 25, but came back to win games 2 and 3 to take a 2-1 lead in that best of 5.
Well, one thing about Saunders is he knows how to coach spontaneously. He can throw his game plan over the shoulder and coach on his feet, and that's what you have to do, particularly in the playoffs.
Duncan, after the timeout, throws up a long-distance jumper that won't go, but Ellie will get it back and goes one-on-one on Peeler. Peeler steps up and got a piece of Ellie to force him to the line.
Well, the Timberwolves have been helping out on Tim Duncan, as you see. Brandon coming down. Sometimes they triple team him, and he's not really throwing the ball well out of the post areas. Again, going baseline, nowhere, turnover, trying to do too much instead of throwing it out for the perimeter open shot. Tim Duncan a little frustrated right now for the Spurs.
Not only have the Spurs been turning it over for 9 Minnesota points, but their defense, the vaunted Spur defense, has just forced 4 Minnesota turnovers, just 4. And Minnesota has a lead despite shooting just 32%. Ellie hitting the first and braced for the second. Mario Ellie with a couple of championship rings from his Houston Rocket years, reigns them both. Spurs get a lot of their emotion, a lot of their grit from this man, Mario Ellie.
Yeah, they say he's never happy. Definitely not happy when he loses, and when you win, he thinks you could have done better. So that's the kind of attitude you want to bring to the game.
He's known as Mr. Grumpy. Smith loses it at the top. Into the hands of Mr. Grumpy. To the glass. Ripped by Peeler. Off of Ellie's feet. Out of bounds. Minnesota basketball. Mario working the officials a bit.
Well, Mario going to the hole. Anthony Peeler stripped them, and we couldn't tell from our angle, but the fans weren't happy with it. I'm sure Minnesota definitely is.
Mario explodes. And you know he's doing that for a couple of reasons. To get himself, his team, and this partisan crowd here at the Alamo Dome fired up. Sam Mitchell comes over, looks us right in the eye, and smiles broadly.
And he says, look, we can win this one. He's very confident, pumped up. Sometimes you do feel it early in the game, even before the second half starts. You just feel it amongst you that you can take a win.
Brandon hits the technical foul shot, and now Minnesota will bring it in bounds. The T-Wolves lead 35-28 with 1:06 left in the first half. 7 San Antonio points in the quarter. Another Minnesota turnover. The pass to the post gets away from Garnett. Up come the Spurs. Ellie bluffs, but cut off. Good defense by Peeler. That's a good matchup. Peeler's an excellent, underrated defender on Mario Ellie.
He's a strong two-guard that can defend even some small forwards. Look at the body on Peeler. He's massive.
A botched pick and roll, and Avery freelances to the baseline. He's a left-hander, and with the offhand, the right hand, he swings in a runner from the baseline.
And they're going to have to focus on Avery because he is not looking to pass as much. The Wolves anticipating Avery's pass, not guarding him to the basket.
Brandon tripped up as he blasts to the baseline. Minnesota's turned the ball over 3 times here in the last minute and a half of play. Games coming up. The Bucks and the Pacers on TBS. The Rockets, Lakers on TNT, followed by Inside the NBA on TNT. Old friend George Karl back at Market Square Arena to take on the Indiana Pacers. Jalen Rose. A Rose by any other name would smell as sweet. He was 9 for 10 on Sunday.
I tell you, he came in off of the bench Sunday and just really took over the ball game on both ends of the court. But Kevin, there are no guarantees in that series, and there are no guarantees in the Laker-Rocket series as well. Very unpredictable.
Minnesota played tricks on George Karl and the Supersonics last year. They're playing tricks on Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs here. They're playing a combination of small ball, the aggressive defense, scrambling, getting San Antonio out of their rhythm. Brandon hitting the free throws. And Brandon quietly has put together a sensational first half. 11 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 of 3 from the line for Terrell Brandon. And the Wolves lead 37-30.
And look at Flip Saunders. He's on the court.
He's got his dancing shoes on. Spurs set up. Look at the combat down low. Smith fronts Duncan. Won't allow him to the ball side. And then in two T-Wolves collide. And down goes both Malik Sealy and Terrell Brandon.
Are playing so hard on defense that they're knocking each other over. As you see Avery driving to the basket. There's a little cheap defense by Brandon that set the whole thing up. Painful.
Brandon's going to shake that off, and here comes Avery Johnson to the line with 10 and 7/10 seconds remaining here in the first half. And Avery Johnson, a 57% free throw shooter during the course of the year, is 1 for 5 in this ball game from the line. The Spurs are 6 of 13, 46%. They're not a good free throw shooting team.
And if
69%.
And if you're not a good shooter, you really need to make those first couple to get your confidence. Avery missed his first few and has struggled since the first quarter.
Second one is good. Wolves lead 37-31. 9 and 5/10 seconds remaining. Brandon will let that ball roll nearly to midcourt, and then the clock will start. He dribbles Johnson in deep, pump fakes, hands off. Smith with 4, Smith with 3. Over to Mitchell, got to get it off. Will short-armed it, rimming, and that will end the first half of play. So the Minnesota Timberwolves, despite shooting just 31%, get San Antonio out of their comfort zone and lead by 6 at half. Minnesota 37, San Antonio 31 on TNT. A different style, a different approach that tonight anyway in the first half has worked extremely well.
Terrell Brandon is so savvy, a really smart basketball point guard, knows how to recognize things on the court, and I think that's a little bit of the difference between he and Stephon Marbury.
Kevin Garnett with 11 points, 5 rebounds, 5 of 11 shooting, and Tim Duncan with 8 points, 6 boards, just 7 shots for Duncan. And here's another showstopper, David Robinson in 20 minutes of the first half, just 4 field goals attempted. That comes down to your point guard. He's got to get those guys involved. And the onus rests on Avery Johnson right now.
Avery Johnson must deliver. He must find a way to get the ball into the scorers. They are allowing Avery to shoot the basketball, and he's not looking not aggressive. But the Timberwolves have done an excellent job of collapsing on Duncan and Robinson. They just aren't making the crisp, accurate passes they were in Game 1.
When we talked to some of the San Antonio folks before the ball game, we asked them about their weakness. How does Minnesota beat you? And the insiders will tell you, you've got to pressure Avery full court so that when San Antonio gets in their half-court set, they have 15, 14 to work in the half-court so that there are fewer options to them. And they have done that. Minnesota has thus far with the pressure on Avery Johnson. Norma Wick joins us courtside now here at the Alamo Dome.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, obviously, Greg Popovich not happy with his crew right now. He said our rebounding effort has been awful. Our free throw shooting stinks. And he said offensively, we've lost discipline and spacing on the floor. He says basically we have played an awful basketball game, mostly due to great offense by the T-Wolves.
Darman, thank you. Yeah, the rebounding totals reflect those comments. 12 offensive rebounds for Minnesota, just 4 for San Antonio. After Smith misses a long jumper, a scramble for the ball deflected out of bounds off San Antonio. And the Timberwolves will start the third quarter with the lead, and they've got the leather, 37-31. Brandon blasting baseline, sneaks in between defenders. There's Peeler. Wow, Anthony Peeler with a dagger out of the corner.
And he was just sitting out there. Terrell Brandon created the whole play by driving to the basket, finding Peeler in the corner, and Peeler, when he hits 1 or 2, he really gets the confidence going.
Peeler's drained 2 threes in this ball game. Robinson shut off and double, leaving it to Elliott for the long flip. Nope. Rebound, Dean Garrett.
Well, the Timberwolves are dictating the game. That's something the Spurs aren't used to. A team making them play the way they aren't accustomed to. As Terrell Brandon again on the hustle play.
Oh, but it was Kevin Garnett that found that loose ball beneath the rim and deflects it back to Brandon for the lay-in. Sensational play by Garnett, winning the loose ball scramble.
And they beat the Spurs twice in regular season, both in Minnesota. So to be able to come in here with a lot of confidence, look at the hustle. Garnett over Tim Duncan, back to Terrell Brandon. You won't see that on the stat sheet. That's an intangible, the will to win.
Brandon going right out. Avery Johnson coming out of the halftime. And Sam Mitchell, ice on the right knee, and then the wrap on the right ankle. And I think that's only for precautionary reasons.
And I think while you're sitting over there, you want to keep, I think the big blue pad is also something to keep the knee warm. You don't want it to get stiff.
You don't want ice on it.
It's a heating pad, and he's really over there just waiting for his number to be called again.
Yeah, you don't want ice on that knee. 42-31 count. Timberwolves by 11. 10:47 to go third quarter. The pick, the pop. Johnson to Robinson. Cross court, Elliott. Dribbling the clock down with 7, with 6, with 5, with 4. The fall away prayer won't go. Duncan the weak side rebound. Back inside to Elliott and fouled as he went airborne.
And the Wolves aren't giving anything easily tonight. Hard fouls. They're not getting a lot of uncontested shots in the paint. Elliott not able to drive to the basket.
Third foul on Anthony Peeler. To the line goes Sean Elliott. The San Antonio group, when you really take a look at it, they had a core group of Elliott who came into the league in 90, and of course Robinson in 89. Avery Johnson started his first of 3 different stints with San Antonio in 90. But they've been the core group through the years. And Elliott, goodness knows, has had his troubles with injuries. The quadricep and tendonitis in the quad and in the knees really hobbled him. He basically has not played the last 2 years.
Yeah, in both legs, actually. And when you combine that with a little trade here and there, out of San Antonio, then back to San Antonio, there's some emotional problems there as well.
Garrett hits a fall-away jumper. Dean Garrett with a fall-away hopper over Sean Elliott makes it 44-33. T-Wolves by 11.
And that's one of the mismatches we were talking about. Garrett over Elliott, posting him up. Good decision by Flip Saunders.
Joe Smith has David Robinson. And out on the wing, the ball goes low to Duncan. They immediately double, forcing Elliott to shoot long range. No go. Rebound, Joe Smith. Boy, the Spurs playing without emotion here to open up this third quarter of play. They're down 11. Brandon will pull up. And Robinson will claim the rebound for San Antonio. Johnson's got to get him in their set. Cross-court pass, Elliott for the long J. Nailed it. Sean Elliott, 2 for 8 shooting this evening.
And they need Elliott extremely bad because he's the guy that can hit the perimeter shot, put it on the floor, open up some things for Tim Duncan inside. They really got to find where is Tim Duncan.
Get 14 points in the winning game 1. Kevin Garnett faces up, and an 18-footer, nothing but silk for the man they used to call the big ticket in the Twin Cities.
Big ticket putting on a big performance here. I like those faces he makes after he hits a shot. It's really painful to the face.
Ellie left alone will shoot a 3 from the corner. That one not even close. Garnett the rebound, releasing Brandon. Has Peeler with him. Watch Anthony hop to the glass for the 2-hand jam. It won't go. San Antonio comes the other way, but they're in no hurry. Avery's going to pull up for the jumper and nailed it.
Well, that time Anthony Peeler got to make sure he tries to get the sure 2 let out the glass. Going to the hole strong is good, but make sure you execute your play because it just turns things around as far as momentum is concerned.
Johnson with 10. Garnett fouled as he tripped up coming through a double team.
Well, Garnett's ability to face up and shoot this jumper really opens up things for him when he does post up. Look at the face. My guy, the big ticket, going to work.
Demonstrative young player from Farragut Academy in Chicago. Brandon with the basketball. Now on the inbounds with 8:27 to play in the third quarter. Minnesota leading 46-37. Peeler for the 3. That one rims. Smith had the rebound, but the Admiral steps in, rips it. Releasing Ellie. Will cruise for the 2-hand jam. And the Timberwolves lead is 7.
They needed to get something going here, and that long court pass to Ellie just may wake them up.
Brandon off the screen, hits a jump shot. Terrell Brandon with a soft jimmy. 15 points for Terrell.
I got to tell you right now, the Wolves are playing like the more veteran team.
Yes,
executed. They started out running. Now they got their half-court game going, and the Spurs cannot find their game yet.
Johnson goes 1-and-1 on a spread floor with a screen at the top. Foul called in the act of shooting.
Well, here's to see who is the strongest of the two. Garrett with the ball first, but David Robinson said, "Give it to me." Goes long to Mario Elliott, who finishes with thunder.
Joe Smith fouls Avery Johnson. Second foul on Joe Smith, and Avery Johnson, who's had his troubles at the line, the 6, is poised on this one and pops it through. Avery Johnson led the nation in assists his senior year at Southern University down in New Orleans. Started his career as an undrafted rookie with Bernie Bickerstaff and the Seattle Supersonics. Second free throw by Johnson up and good. 48-41, T-Wolves by 7.
This is where it's nice to have a Terrell Brandon, someone who will set the offense, won't panic, find the open guy.
It's Peeler. 3 rolls off. Smith with a rebound, trying to go back to the dish. Deflected out of bounds. I think Garnett had a hand on it, but the officials aren't buying it. Minnesota will get it with a new 24 on the shot clock. Big game.
And the Wolves have the Spurs crying every time to the referees. You see Garrett doing an excellent job of getting the rebound. Didn't really gather himself. Deflected out of bounds by the Spurs.
Garrett, Garnett, Smith up front for Minnesota with Peeler and Brandon the guards. A new 24 on the shot clock.
Every time down, the Timberwolves seem to set a play. They're not shooting randomly. Smarter team than we saw in game 1.
Garnett with a sensational underhand scoop delivery to Dean Garrett for the sweeping reverse.
Quick recognition from game 1 to 2. This team looks like they've grown tremendously since game 1.
Oh, that was a gem of a pass by Kevin Garnett. Robinson misses the long jumper. Brandon with a long rebound. Running out off of it, but the Spurs recover. Wolves by 9.
And last year, the Wolves would have tried to score out of that situation. That time, Terrell Brandon says, look, we don't have anything. Let's get a shot. And there it is.
Garnett missing. Duncan sealing him off for the rebound. Spurs want to run, but the Wolves fill the lane. Johnson reverses a pass deflected and then swatted out of bounds. It'll be Minnesota ball. 6:24 left, third quarter play. Watch a big man at nearly 7 feet with the great recognition of the floor and the find in traffic. Oh, that's nice. Garnett to Garrett, and the Wolves have a 9-point lead. Minnesota Timberwolves have the Alamo Dome crowd riled up because the Wolves have a 9-point lead, 50-41. And Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett battling inside. Right now, Garnett really warming up. 13 points, 6 rebounds, 6 of 13 from the field. And a marvelous pass a moment ago to set up Dean Garrett. Minnesota basketball.
More importantly, they shell-shocked Duncan and Robinson, who have not been involved here much in the second half.
Joe Smith has 8 rebounds and has played solid defense this evening. Has not been an offensive threat. Backs down Duncan. The fall-away jumper for Joe. Horseshoes and pops out. Robinson with the rebound. Duncan in the early offense. Backs down Smith. Lays him out. Steps over him and lays it up and in. Duncan's first points, James, since the first quarter. Garnett doubled. Finds Smith. They'll leave him alone. That was a mistake. 17-footer good for Joe Smith, who's hit his first field goal of this game.
Yeah, Joe Smith knocked that one down. You talked about Tim Duncan hitting his first basket, and he really had to work hard for that. Almost a charge, but nevertheless, he was able to get up the score.
Wolves by 9. San Antonio sets up. Robinson on the low block. Wants it from Elliott. Immediately drop steps into the lane and took steps. Good call.
Well, there's a travel by the frustrated Duncan, but here's, Robinson on the travel. Here's Tim Duncan just plowing over Smith.
Smith has done a solid job defensively and has 8 rebounds. He has really been battering Duncan in beneath the rim.
We haven't seen the best of Joe Smith. He's really found a home in Minnesota. Kevin McHale, happy to have him to work with him.
First pick of the draft came out as a sophomore from Maryland. Misses that shot. Got to follow your shot, Joe. He didn't. Seeley, however, scrambles over for the rebound.
Yeah, Smith that time had the old Michael Jordan hang the hand in there. Different results, though.
Brandon angles baseline double team. Needs help. Here's Smith rotating out. 10 on the shot clock. Seeley in the air. Nothing but silk. Malik Seeley.
You don't have to have any doubt where it's going when it reaches Malik Seeley's hand, the tiemaker.
Seeley out of the Bronx. Right now they're playing that street game, baby. Trying to scramble the San Antonio Spurs. 54-43. The Timberwolves with a commanding lead. 4:27 left here in the third on TNT. 54-43 score. The Minnesota Timberwolves leading San Antonio with 4:27 left here in the third quarter with big game James Worthy, Kevin Calabro on hand at the Alamo Dome. Where the Spurs have lost only 4 times this year. They've won 14 in a row here at home. Minnesota's been horrible on the road, winning, or I should say losing, 10 in a row. Second chance points, 12-3. Minnesota commanding the offensive glass.
And Minnesota 15 offensive rebounds for 12 points. They aren't shooting the ball extremely well, only 40%, but they're still up by 11 because of the 8 of 10 from the free throw line, and those offensive boards are compensating for the poor shooting.
Minnesota brings a double team of Garnett and Garrett and Duncan. He gets rid of it. Then they swing it to the far side to Robinson and settle for a jumper by Johnson that's blocked. That is a tremendous stop by Minnesota after the timeout. And San Antonio was unable to execute after the timeout.
Good defensive rotation, and the guy they wanted to shoot the ball, Avery.
Brandon loses the handle on the ball, got caught in backcourt for the walk. 9 turnovers on Minnesota.
This is pure confidence. A guy that wants to win, he senses it. Garnett in the huddle, coaching, letting his teammates know that if you get on my back, I'll carry us home to Minnesota with the W. Garnett coaching his team.
That's amazing for a kid that's going to turn 23 in about, I don't know, 6-7 days. Here's Kerr for a 3. His first opportunity of the ball game is off the mark. Ellie has not been a factor. He has not been able to find the range. Ellie 2 for 9 shooting, so they're going to try Steve Kerr. Defensively, he's a liability. Let's see if they go to the mismatch. Here's Garnett for the jumper short, but a scrambling hustle play by Garrett for another offensive rebound.
They're going to try to expose Kerr in the post.
Well, Seeley had him, but he hurried the jump shot.
I tried. They got to take his time right now, as do the Timberwolves. They can't get too happy with too many perimeter shots. Continue to execute and finish the game out.
54-43 count. Minnesota with 3 minutes left in the third quarter.
There's a big battle in the post between Robinson and Smith. Smith not giving up any ground. As you see Robinson with the tricky move, causing the foul.
Smith is 6'10", 225, a little light in the wallet, but he's quick enough to combat Robinson, and that's probably what you need when you play in the post against David Robinson more than you do the heft. Because here's why. Look at that up fake and then the drive, and the block foul called.
Yeah, David Robinson will not be denied. He's going to put the ball on the floor, shoot the little jumper. But you're right. Smith is a player, will not back down. That time he was not ready for David Robinson to drive.
Now, David Robinson in this ball game, James, with just 5 field goal attempts in 29 minutes. And the Spurs with only 8 assists on 16 made field goals. And again, we get down to playmaking. Minnesota's had it. San Antonio is not.
Well, Avery can't make up his mind whether he wants to be aggressive like he was in game 1 or whether he wants to try to get off Robinson and Duncan. And that little hesitation can really throw off the timing, the cohesiveness of an offense. Plus, you got to give credit to the Wolves. They're really doing an excellent job of collapsing down on the Twin Towers.
Robinson nails a couple of free throws. 54-45. Timberwolves leading. 2:54 left third quarter. Brandon on a pick and slip. Seeley rotating to the hole, but deflected by Kerr. Grabbed by Robinson. Here comes San Antonio. Will they make a statement on this possession? Kerr missing the jumper, but Duncan with a recovery. They can't buy a jump shot. And Elliott is rammed at the free throw line by Garrett for the foul. San Antonio leading Minnesota 1 game love. The Lakers lead Houston 1-0. The series between Utah and Sacramento tied at 1-1. They go back to Arco and Sacramento, a tough place to play. And the Blazers lead their series over Phoenix 1-0.
I tell you, the Sacramento Kings are a dangerous ball club. Played well against the Jazz in the regular season. Going back to Arco Arena, as you mentioned, going to be extremely tough. And you know, the Rockets and the Lakers coming up next. And the Rockets, with their veteran players, are going to be depending a lot on the experience to overcome Shaquille and company.
And then following the game, stick around for the playoff scores, the highlights on Inside the NBA. Ernie Johnson holding court with Peter Vesey and Kenny Smith. 2:32 left here in the third quarter from the Alamo Dome, San Antonio, Texas. Minnesota 54 and the Spurs 47. And the crowd now getting into this game.
And this is where it's going to be important for Terrell Brandon and Kevin Garnett to keep their poise, not shoot random perimeter shots, and allow the Spurs to get on transition game for easy buckets.
Garnett takes steps. The 11th Minnesota turnover. Here they come.
And this is where a young team can lose it. A team that hadn't been in a lot of experiences, particularly during this time of the year. They really got to keep their poise, play the game, execute.
This is, however, the third straight playoff appearance for Minnesota. They were swept by Houston 2 years ago and took the Sonics to 5 before succumbing. Here's Johnson to Duncan, and immediately the double. Look at Duncan, bothered, fell with the ball, finds Kerr. 7 on the shot clock. 5, and Avery handling with 3 on the shot clock. To scoop with 1, deflected, grabbed by Garnett. Here comes Minnesota. Big stop by the Wolves.
And Duncan had no idea where the double team was coming to him from, and that's been a major problem right now, because now he's thinking instead of going automatically.
Mitchell will raise, and drain a jump shot from the corner.
The X factor for the Timberwolves. Mitchell.
Longtime veteran, Sam Mitchell.
I remember playing against tough competitors.
Played a couple of years in Greece and in the CBA before finally getting his break. First with Minnesota, traded Indiana, then back with the Minnesota Timberwolves. 1:24 left in the third. Rick Popovich just trying to push some buttons over there right now to get some life, inject some life into his club. And Steve Kerr comes on here in the third quarter, missing a couple of jumpers, but getting to the line now for 2.
And this is where Garnett is still inexperienced, because he fouled Steve Kerr and really didn't need to, just a little extra and talked a little trash afterwards. And this is when he's got to control himself, as you see the pick being set by Kerr. There's Garnett giving him a little bit too much.
Kerr drains both free throws. 56-49 is the score. Minnesota with the lead in the basketball. Garnett, one dribble to Sealy. Oh, that was a clutch jump shot there. The defense laying off, wide open from 14 feet.
And I really think Sealy is the guy to go to, because he's not afraid to put it up. Sometimes these other younger players get a little tense in these struggling moments.
Heck, his dad was a bodyguard for Malcolm X. He grew up in the Bronx. Kerr misses a 3. Rebound Garnett to Brandon. Great pass. There's Malik for the necktie.
I got a couple of his ties, some nice ties he made while he was playing for New Jersey. He grew up in a family of seamstress, learned how to sew from his mother and sisters.
What an upbringing. Dad was also a boxer, I might add. A pro, 60-49 count. Robinson spins into the lane. Look at that double team set up by Mitchell and Smith that time. Elliott will run into the lane and hits an off-balance runner. Beautifully done.
And one thing about the Spurs is they are not scoring easily. Timberwolves are doing a good job of making the Spurs pay for everything that they get on the offensive end.
Timeout called by Minnesota. The Timberwolves lead at 60-51 with 29 seconds left in the third quarter play.
Well, you talk about physical play. Kerr, the champion of the Chicago Bulls. People can't wait to get back at him, as did Malik Sealy with a little elbow in the neck, but a little acting job by Kerr as well, but very effective, or can be.
Here's a number for you. Bench scoring. Minnesota 15. San Antonio 4. Seeley with 8 points coming off the bench. 24 seconds left in the third quarter. Minnesota leading by 9. Brandon with that change of pace dribble. Then Seeley in the corner with 7 on the shot clock. Brandon with 4 on the shot clock. Mitchell with 1 on the shot clock. Hit glass, no rim. Shot clock violation. San Antonio will take it with 7 and 6/10 seconds remaining in the third frame.
That time the play was there for Terrell Brandon after Garnett set the pick. Something he does well, he did not do there. He used to pull up for that little 15-footer. That time he took it too far into the paint and didn't have anywhere to go with it.
Popovich with a missive for Duncan, and will bring it in bounds out of backcourt. Bobby Jackson will come in to get Terrell Brandon, who has gone 35 hard minutes tonight. How much will he have left in the tank in the fourth quarter is probably going to be the story. Johnson up the floor, shadowed by Jackson. Avery with 1 on the clock, short-arming the jump shot. Duncan the follow block. That ends the third quarter. Minnesota leads after 3 in San Antonio, 60-51. We'll come back with the race to the wire in the fourth quarter here from the Alamo Dome in a moment. To the NBA on TNT. We head to the fourth quarter play at the Alamo Dome with the San Antonio Spurs trailing the Minnesota Timberwolves 60-51.
Well, Kevin, this is the quarter where men become boys.
Duncan with the right-hand hook on the low block, rejected by Garnett. Goaltending the call. Give Duncan the bucket.
Well, Garnett's got to make a decision. He did a pretty good job of forcing Duncan into a tough shot. Goaltending, you don't want to give away points. Got to be careful with the goaltending.
Third goaltending call. 12 points, 12 rebounds for Tim Duncan tonight. Just 12 points for Duncan. Here's the pick and slip, and Garnett. Look at the extension with a right hand over Duncan, and a tremendous find by Terrell Brandon to make it 62-53 Minnesota.
Just good execution, pick and roll, and when he spreads out, I tell you, he plays around 7 feet 4 inches when he spreads that arm out like that.
Now Duncan goes to work. Backs into a double team. Throws outside Elliott. Pump fakes. Duncan with it with 8 on the shot clock. One dribbling up with a left hand. They're going to the man, Tim Duncan.
And that time, he posted, threw it out, reposted, and that's what he was not doing in the first half. Much more patient, Tim Duncan, on that play.
Minnesota hasn't been able to bring that double team at him because he's been much more quick and assertive.
Absolutely.
7-point lead for Minnesota. 7 on the shot clock. Garnett, rather than shooting, trying to pass to Smith, and that's what got him into trouble in the second half of game 1.
All right, here we go. Here's Terrell Brandon into Garnett on his prior move before the turnover, just extending over Duncan. Good pass by Terrell Brandon.
13 Minnesota turnovers. Spurs trying to scramble back into this thing. Malik Rose with the ball at the top. Duncan again with it, left side. Look at the big shot from 15. A sweet little smooch to pull the Spurs to within 5. They're getting on the back of the big man from St. Croix, Virgin Islands, Tim Duncan, and riding him to within 5 points.
And there's Tim Duncan with a nice little jump hook. And then he shows you that the bank is open, the ATM card is working. No insufficient funds for Tim Duncan off the glass, kissing it good.
Here in the fourth quarter, Duncan 3 for 3 with 6 points. The Spurs coming from behind by 11 here in the quarter. Duncan 16 points, 6 here in the fourth. Bench scoring Minnesota 15, San Antonio 4. Offensive rebounds has really been the story. Minnesota 16 and San Antonio with just 7 second chance opportunities. 62-57 and a key possession for Minnesota with the lead. Having a step in low and his way through the double team. Kevin Garnett to the glass for the roller.
And I got to tell you, Terrell Brandon with this ball club, the execution has been phenomenal, particularly when they need to keep possession of the basketball and not turn it over.
Here's Duncan on his way to the rim. Challenged at the top of the shot blocked, but Duncan got it back. He ripped it away from Smith and laid it up and in. Tremendous recovery by Tim Duncan. Duncan with 16 points. 9:42 remaining in the ball game. Wolves by 5. Again, they go to Garnett. One-on-one on Duncan. Outside to Brandon. Mitchell raises. Running off. Garnett keeps it alive. But San Antonio with possession. Here's Avery Johnson. Steve Kerr with Duncan, Elliott, and Malik Rose. Robinson on the bench with 9:16 left to play. 6 on the shot clock. 5 to Elliott. 4 to Kerr for the 3. No. He's 0 for 3. Rebound Terrell Brandon.
It's a different offense. It's not the triangle offense where he's comfortable with shooting those threes.
Brandon giving to Garnett, but he walked into the lane with it. Turnover on Minnesota, and back come the Spurs.
Where earlier in this quarter you see Duncan being abused by Garnett, and then back on the other end of the court, Duncan comes right back. Double your fun, hustle. Duncan, the man.
Duncan 23, Garnett 22. He'll turn 23 in a matter of days. Only about a month separate the two in birthdays. Duncan's shot is blocked by Dean Garrett. Came up short. And Brandon with a recovery. Left side of Mitchell in transition. The pull-up jumper. Nope. Smith trying to fight off Malik Rose for the rebound. And Kerr steps in to deflect it out of bounds.
And that's one of the reasons that Joe Smith is so important to have in the ball game. Even though he didn't get the rebound, he kept it alive and knocked it off for Kerr out of bounds.
8.5 minutes left in the run. Timberwolves by 5 with possession of the basketball. Brandon with that solid stroke. Not this time. Duncan with a rebound. How much does Brandon have left? He's gone nearly the entire course of this game. He has 16 points. He's been a sensational floor general for Minnesota. But this is crunch time. Johnson gives to the post, cuts, gets it, hands to Malik Rose, and is hammered and fouled.
Terrell Brandon playing a lot of minutes, but Flip Saunders has not enough confidence in anybody else to come in and run the show. As you see Avery, great entry pass, and then right back to Avery over to Malik Rose. Smith took him out.
4th foul on Joe Smith. Here's Malik Rose. During the lockout, Malik Rose was staying at home with his mom and his 8-year-old brother, Antonio. USA Today just happened to do a feature on Malik Rose, came to the house. Malik wanted to show the house, and he was sharing the bunk with his 8-year-old brother. Well, he had the Rugrat sheets on the bed, and ever since then they've been calling Malik Rose the Rugrat.
Yeah, Malik Rose went through a little learning process during the lockout. Had a couple of his credit cards denied, but he came back strong. A guy who can really appreciate a budget.
Rose misses the free throw. 64-60, Minnesota with the lead in the basketball. 8 on the shot clock for Kevin. To Dean Garrett out of the corner. Air ball, but grabbed out of midair and stuck right back up and in by Anthony Peeler.
And Kevin, you talked about his rebounding abilities early in the ball game. The guy can flat out rebound from the guard position.
66-60 count. Minnesota leading by 6. 7.5 minutes left in the ball game. Kerr right side to Elliott. Look at him slash into the lane. Switch left to right. Hand up and in it goes. Outstanding drive by Sean Elliott.
A lot of experience doing what he didn't do in the first half. This time not shooting the perimeter shot, but deciding to take the ball to the hole.
Elliott with 13 points on 4 of 10 shooting. Now Peeler has the mismatch on Kerr, but there's Tim Duncan for the rebuke. Slaps it out of bounds. Spiked it out with 9 on the shot clock to Minnesota.
And it used to be Mr. Robinson's house. They tore Robinson's house down, built the Dunkin' Donut house, and Tim says, "Get it out of my house."
Fun game at the Alamo Dome. This place is packed to the rafters. And they right now are into this thing. Malik Rose will come out, and in will come David Robinson. 9 on the shot clock for Minnesota. Timberwolves holding on to a slim 4-point lead. Garnett on his way to the rack. Fall away jumper over. Duncan won't go, but there's Garrett with the offensive rebound.
Offensive rebounds just killing the San Antonio Spurs. Every time they make a move, they give up an offensive rebound. Gives the Wolves a lot of confidence coming back.
Brandon across the arc to Peeler with 12 on the shot clock. Peeler off the screen. Brandon fades from the corner. The jumper in and out. Rebound deflected, loose ball. Garnett scrambles out to get it. And Minnesota will set up again.
I got to tell you, the referees have done an excellent job of not calling the touchy fouls, letting these two teams play Good hustle.
Salvatore, Maurer, and Bernhardt, the officials, as Garnett backs down on Robinson. Tried the step around, straightens and fires. Missing. Duncan soars in for the rebound. 66-62 Timberwolves. Johnson tries to press the issue, but Brandon there to thwart him. Johnson inside to Robinson. Back out of the post. Then into Robinson. Across the middle and a foul. On the floor. No shot attempted. And the second foul on Kevin Garnett.
Well, David Robinson exerted himself in the post. The crowd is alive here at the Alamo, supporting the Spurs comeback.
James Worthy, Kevin Calabro on hand, and after this game, the Rockets and the Lakers. LA leading the series 1-0, followed by inside the NBA. Kevin McHale just trying to hang on the edge of the chair, courtside here at the Alamo Dome. Minnesota leading 66-62, 6:13 left in the game.
And this is the critical part of the fourth quarter where both teams have to make their serve.
Johnson tried to enter the post to Duncan off his thigh, grabbed by Minnesota. Brandon has it ripped up the floor by Ellie, but he couldn't save it. It'll be Minnesota basketball. Let's go to Norma Wick.
Well, people were a little dejected in the Minnesota timeout until Malik Sealy spoke up. He said, listen, guys, we're winning this ball game. Do not get down. Garnett looking a little tired. Malik looked at him and said, hey, kid, this is where you make your fame. Let's get after it.
This is where you make that pile of dough. $123 million of Glenn Taylor's money is sitting right here courtside, and he's done a wonderful job. Garnett has 17 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. On the wing, it's KG. Got that 15-footer from the right side with 1 on the shot clock.
Well, execution critical. They're running time off the clock. They're getting up a shot. They're not turning the ball over, and they're also getting second possessions. You talk about a game plan to perfection. The Wolves are running it.
Duncan inside out to Ellie, off the mark, and Mario Ellie 2 for 9. How about Steve Kerr 0 for 4? Their long-range shooters are off. And Avery Johnson, who dropped 1 jumper after another in game 1, is 4 for 9. They've had really no perimeter game.
And because their inside game is not as consistent as it has been, you don't have the perimeter game because you don't have the open shots from the double teams.
Wheeler has range. He'll try about a 28-foot 3 with 2 on the shot clock after retrieving, and it won't go. San Antonio with the rebound. 68-62. T-Wolves by 6 with 5 minutes left in the ball game. Avery wide open. Got it. Avery Johnson catches in that jump shot. And here are the Spurs now again after trailing by 11 within 4.
And it's time for the Timberwolves to continue to attack. Right now they're getting into a mode where they want to protect the lead. That's when things go wrong. Continue to execute and score some buckets and finish this game off.
Good double play of Brandon. He's forced to get rid of it to Mitchell. 6 in the shot clock, and Kevin Garnett hits another jumper. Nothing but silk for Kevin Garnett. 10 of 20 shooting, 21 points for the big ticket.
Big ticket getting busy. Twice as nice. 2 jumpers in a row. Pulling David Robinson out on the perimeter.
Johnson drives into the lane. He got too deep and laid it up and in with the left hand. Now Avery Johnson trying to ignite his ball club.
Yeah, no need to pressure him. Make him shoot the perimeter, because if you pressure him, he's going to spin off of you and create some problems in the paint. Nice finger roll.
70-66 is Garnett again. Pump fakes. Might have walked. Nice pass to Garrett inside and fouled. He will shoot 2.
Well, this is exactly why of the Lakers does not come to too many games, because, boy, you can age quickly. Kevin McHale wishes he could go out there and play a little bit. He's having a really tough time watching this game. It's really intense. There he is, cooling down.
Got some work ahead of him. Terrell Brandon is a free agent, and they hold New Jersey's first-round pick this year, which could be no worse than 5th. Some big decisions to make in Minneapolis this summer.
Well, when Marbury left, they really felt they were in a hole, but as you see, this team has sustained fairly well here in the first round.
Garrett misses both free throws. And the San Antonio Spurs with possession, trailing by 4, 70-66 setup. Johnson, the great pass inside to Elliott, flashing to the bucket for the 2-hand jam. Will it count? It will not count. An offensive foul whistled by Kenny Maurer on Elliott down on the baseline.
Well, Elliott was wide open, and now we know why, because as you see him throw Mitchell to the side, really couldn't see it there at the bottom of their left screen, but prior to that, he threw Mitchell off of him to get open on the back door.
Big turnaround right there. Now Minnesota will operate with 14 on the shot clock.
He's hot. He's hot. He's feeling it.
Man.
He's feeling it.
That is playoff basketball. That is clutch. That is courage.
That's big money, Garnett, the big ticket.
23 points, 11 rebounds for KG. Now Tim Duncan tried to throw low to Robinson. Garnett in on the play again to deflect it away to Brandon.
He's the All-American kid right now, earning every dime of his contract.
72-66 count. Brandon rushes off the Garnett pick. Garnett will pop out one-on-one. Spread floor on Duncan. He'll face it. He'll fire. That one was deep in the well, but popped out. Robinson with a rebound. Spurs aren't out of this, down by 6 with 2:54 left in the ballgame, but they have not shown life. Here's another sloppy pass to the post deflected by Garnett. 13 on the shot clock for San Antonio.
Going to the well too many times. Duncan is not going to be able to do it all.
Robinson ripped by Garrett and a jump ball call. I can't tell you. I'm going to echo your sentiments, James. This has been a well-called game by the officials. Teddy Bernhardt with the jump ball call right there.
3 of the best in the NBA. Not afraid to call what they see. Never anticipating. Good defense by the...
2-0 lead on the Phoenix Suns. That series going back to Phoenix. Utah and Sacramento tied a game apiece. Lakers lead Houston 1-0. The Lakers-Houston will follow this broadcast. And the Spurs lead 1-0 on Minnesota. But the Timberwolves have a 6-point lead.
Yeah, the Timberwolves are playing extremely well here in the fourth quarter. But getting back to the Portland-Phoenix series, Portland team depth is what I call them, because Mike Dunleavy sold that team on unselfishness, and it really is paying off.
Here's a deflection on the jump ball. It is won by Minnesota. 72-66 count. Wolves by 6 with 2.5 minutes to go. Kevin Garnett here in the fourth quarter has hit 5 of 8 from the field, 10 points, 3 rebounds.
We need to go back to him.
There he is.
He's the guy.
Dips his shoulder, jump pass to Mitchell. Running right-hander, incredible shot by Mitchell. Put his shoulder in on Elliott. Off contact, he hits the runner.
And a lot of people look at that shot and they say bad shot, but that is a well thought out shot by Mitchell, running off of that right foot.
There are guys that shoot well off balance. Let's face it. I mean, Jeff Malone was a great one. There's a name for the pass. No basket for Duncan. Foul before the shot.
There's Garnett drawing the defense to him, and Mitchell not settling for the perimeter shot, putting it on the floor, trying to draw contact, and look at the coaches. Flip saying, great shot. Popovich says, can't believe he knocked that down.
1:58 left in this ball game. The Timberwolves lead by 8. In Minnesota, it's imperative now that San Antonio score on this possession. Ellie off the screen, driving into the lane to the glass, switching right to left hand, wouldn't fall. Robinson with a rebound, draws a crowd and is fouled as he was fast to the floor. Was not in the air to attempt the shot, but it will send Robinson to the line for 2.
Well, this has been a physical game. The Timberwolves have played extremely strong on the inside. Robinson not getting anything easy, even on second opportunities. The Timberwolves are collapsing very physically, sending guys to the line instead of giving them the easy 2 points.
San Antonio tonight at the line, 18 of 26, and David Robinson 4 of 4. Robinson checks in with the 8 points and the 8 rebounds. Flip Saunders and his group of fine assistant coaches over there, Randy Whitman, Jerry Seaston, Greg Ballard, elected to go big tonight to start this ball game. Dean Garrett got the start, and they brought Sam Mitchell off the bench, and it has paid dividends.
Well, we talked about the adjustments that Flip Saunders had to make, and he made some good ones tonight. One you just mentioned, Garrett coming in the game, had some good defense in the first half, and then bringing Mitchell off the bench, and he's been extremely productive, particularly here in this fourth quarter.
74-67. The Timberwolves have the lead with 1:48 left, and a 20-second timeout is called after Greg Popovich elects to send Steve Kerr into the lineup. Now, Kerr is 0 for 4 in 9 minutes, but you know he's deadly. Ellie, 2 for 11 from the field. So their long-range jump shooters have been off, but that could change in the remaining 1:48 and change. Immediately following this game, stay tuned for Game 2 of the Houston Rockets and Los Angeles Lakers on TNT. And then stick around for all the playoff scores and highlights on Inside the NBA with Bob Lorenz, Terry Cummings, Top Cat in the house, along with Peter Vesey. They're going to let Ernie and Kenny go home. I mentioned earlier they'd be around. They're going to let them go home. I think they should work him personally.
They should work him till the night is over.
Lorenz is going to step in with the Top Cat. Robinson missed the second free throw, and Minnesota again on the glass. Minnesota's out-rebounded San Antonio 44-37. 74-67 count. Minnesota with the lead in the basketball with a minute and a half left.
And they're really working the two most productive players, Terrell Brandon and Garnett, on the strong side. Got to get it up, though, with 1 second left on the shot clock.
Peeler drains a three from about 27, 28 feet out with 1 on the shot clock. That's the way the night has gone for Minnesota.
Pure upper body strength to get that ball up with 1 second from that distance.
Duncan, the drop step jumper won't go, but there's Robinson cleaning it up with a left-hand tip jam with 1:13 left in the game. San Antonio down 8, 77-69. And Johnson will stop the clock, fouling Terrell Brandon.
Anthony Pillar, I remember when he was with the Los Angeles Lakers, we were in awe of his strength, and that's all that was, catching the ball with a second left. Look at the pipes on this guy. And then there's Duncan missing the jump hook, but Robinson answering with authority. Hopefully not too late.
Minnesota had a foul. I'm sorry, San Antonio had the foul to give, so Minnesota will bring the ball inbounds. 58 seconds left in the ball game with Minnesota leading by 8. Brandon over a double team will fire. That caught some glass after hitting the rim and rolled in. First, it's Mitchell's runner over Elliott. Then Peeler's three with 1 on the shot clock. And then, are you kidding me? Brandon off the front of the rim, the glass, and in.
When it rains, it pours. And the soft touch is there for the Timberwolves as you see it go way up over the score. Dropped in softly.
79-69, Minnesota leading San Antonio. 51 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Kevin McHale saw his ball club lose by 25 in Game 1 of last year's 5-game playoff series, only to come back and win Game 2 and 3 against a veteran Sonic basketball team. And tonight, Minnesota, after getting beaten in Game 1, coming back to lead by 10 with 45 seconds left in this contest, James.
He's got to be happy with all of his players. Joe Smith didn't score well, played some good defense. Anthony Peeler coming in. Offensive rebounds and scoring as well. Collective effort by the Wolves tonight.
Minnesota has been very quick to the basketball. They have swarmed the ball. To an extent, they have played small ball. Now, granted, they played 6'11" Garrett with Joe Smith up front, who's just under 7 feet. But those guys, they don't have, don't get me wrong, they don't have the size. They don't play like big 7-footers. I mean, they're quick, they're agile. They don't have big loads to battle guys and push them off the block.
Not the dominant centers that we have seen traditionally, but guys who can block shots, guys who are athletic. Garnett, very athletic, blocking shots. Garrett as well.
25 and 6/10 seconds remaining in the ball game.
There's Kevin McHale looking for Red Auerbach. He wants to borrow a cigar right now. Gonna light one up.
Well, they're going to go back to Minnesota, it seems, for Thursday's game, and we'll have it. We'll be there at the Target Center. That place is a loud, raucous place as well up there in Minneapolis. They love their basketball up there. Timberwolves leading 80-69 with 25 and 6/10 seconds remaining in the game. The story here, Kevin Garnett in the fourth quarter, 5 of 8 shooting, 10 points, 4 rebounds. He gets the curtain call. Brandon's free throw off the mark. San Antonio will secure the rebound, and here they come.
Remember the timeout, Kevin, when we talked about Garnett putting the team on his back and carrying it? Well, that's what he's done. Everyone has followed Garnett's lead.
Anthony Peeler, we talked about him at the top of the program. We said that he would be a key here tonight, or would have to be a key in order for them to win, and he has been. 11 points, 5 rebounds, 4 of 13. 3 of those have been three-point shots. But when Peeler's out there stroking the jump shot, you have to respect him, and it opens things up for the middle.
You have to respect him, and when he has his effort game going, he does more than scoring. He scores. He got some big offensive rebounds tonight in critical situations. He's a guy you have to look to early in the game. You never want Anthony Peeler out of the ball game. If I were Flip, I'd call my first 2 or 3 plays for Peeler to get him involved.
Malik Rose at the line, and the free throw short. 80-69 count, Minnesota. The Wolves throw the ball up the floor to Robinson. He is fouled by Steve Kerr with 10 seconds remaining in this contest. Tim Duncan, 44 minutes logged in, 18 points, 16 rebounds, and 9 of 15 shooting. David Robinson just had 6 attempts from the field in 39 minutes, 11 points. David unable to get things rolling. Greg Popovich saw Avery Johnson struggle tonight. 16 points and just 3 assists for Avery. Did not have an assist at half.
I tell you what, he did not get the job done tonight. And if you take a look over at the bench of the Spurs, you see Tim Duncan sitting down, thinking about what he has to do now. The heat is on.
Tell you what, Terrell Brandon played a sensational game. At halftime, Terrell Brandon had 11 points, 5 assists, and 1 turnover. And this is a club that really does not have a capable backup point guard, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They leaned on Brandon, but in the end, it was the big ticket, Kevin Garnett, that carried them with one big jump shot after another in the fourth quarter of play. The Timberwolves hang on to win this one, 80-71 on the San Antonio Spurs. Well, we'll go down to Norma Wick now with KG, Kevin Garnett.
Thanks, Kevin. You said you were going to go back into your lab, Shades of Seattle. You come out, made the adjustments, and you came out with a win.
Like I said earlier, we've been playing with adversity all this year. We've been through so much this year, and we know what it's like to play with our backs against the wall. You know, you guys, and I don't mean TNT, but I mean the media put us down like we was going to get swept. We're watching the local commercials, talking about get your brooms. That's like an insult, man. You know, we're an NBA team too. We get paid just like they get paid. And, you know, we got good talent and come out with the idea to win tonight, and that's what we did.
You said you wanted to shock the world. I think you've momentarily stunned them, at least here in San Antonio at home. How big was this win on the road for you?
The shock the world comment, that was something that I made fun of, but, you know, people sort of sticking to it. So, you know, hey, I stick to my word, but at the same time, we're playing good basketball. You know, we're executing. We came out, we played aggressive for 48 minutes, which was the difference in game one.
23 points, 10 in the fourth quarter. You came out strong.
I played hard. I want to say hello to my grandmother who was in the hospital. I love you, Granny.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Back to you, Kevin.
Kevin Garnett, 23 points, 12 rebounds. Terrell Brandon, 18 points, 9 assists, 7 boards. Thursday night, Game 3. Ought to be a beauty, James.
The heat is on in Minnesota, baby.
Final again. It's the Timberwolves, 80-71 over the Spurs to even the series at a game apiece. After the break, Ernie and Company from Atlanta.